checkpoints and removed all passengers who had been previously screened out into the non-secure part of the airport. We've activated our Family Assistance Center at the Hilton Hotel based upon some reports that some of these flights may have originated from Boston. We're asking the media's assistance to notify any family members that may have had families flying on those flights that we've had various reports on, to call these following numbers. American Airlines, 800-245-0999. Secondly, family members can call a Massport number.
Periodista que sea uno muy profesional, que en ese momento yo creo que es un shock, ¿no? Como ser humano, como residente o ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, Neida, es un shock, y por supuesto nosotros vimos cómo tú esta mañana lo manejaste de una manera tan profesional, pero al mismo tiempo sí te veías afectada por esto. ¿Qué es lo que pensaste tú? O sea, al principio se pensó que era un accidente, pero ¿en qué momento te pasó por la mente de que esto no se trataba únicamente de un accidente, sino de algo muchísimo más serio?
María Elena, en los primeros segundos, y podríamos decir que comenzamos nosotros a narrar paso a paso lo que estaba ocurriendo en el centro de Manhattan, en Nueva York, yo miraba asombrada las imágenes, me parecía que estaba viendo una película, algo irreal, y a medida que pasaban los segundos y que nos dimos, que iba como que íbamos asimilando la información, María Elena, yo empecé a temblar por dentro, me empecé a dar cuenta que ahí podían haber muchísimas personas trabajando, que esto no eran imágenes irreales, que eran de verdad, y a medida que pasaban los minutos y que luego surgió el otro ataque en el Pentágono, me di cuenta que Estados Unidos estaba bajo ataque terrorista, que nosotros estábamos siendo testigos de ese.
This, again, is not a graphic. This is an actual photograph of the plane crashing into one of the World Trade Center towers. Flames shoot out of the opposite side of the building. And then, a short while later, one of the towers began collapsing. The hope, the prayer was it was only part of the building collapsing, but it turned out to be the whole building comes down, raining debris in a wide area below it. And this harsh fact we had only had time to absorb it when the second tower began to collapse. First one plane hit a World Trade Center tower, then another plane hit the other tower. One tower collapses and the other collapses. Carol Maureen, our CBS News correspondent based in Chicago, is just back from this part of New York City. Carol?
Dan, I think I was in the second collapse or an explosion right after that, because I was trying to make my way around Stuyvesant High School. I believe that's correct. I'm not a New Yorker. But I was coming toward the World Trade Center looking for CBS crews and asked a firefighter if he saw any. He told me to walk down the middle of the road. All of a sudden, there was a roll, an explosion, and we could see coming at us a ball of flame stories high. He and others screamed, "Run," and I ran. I fell. One of them picked me up. We ran as fast as we could, and then I can imagine. He threw me into a wall, covered me with his body. I could feel his heart banging against my back. We were both so sure we were going to die. The flame somehow stopped short of us. But whatever collapsed created, and you saw it in some of that video, Dan, a rain of cinders so thick that you couldn't see this far in front of you and you couldn't breathe. A police officer, and I wish I knew the firefighter's name, a police officer by the name of Brendan Duke grabbed my hand, and he and I tried to find our way through it until we could hit a clearing in the light. What you're seeing on the ground here, Dan, was in the air, and you couldn't see. And again, we thought we were finished. We somehow got to the light. Another firefighter gave me his mask for a moment so I could breathe. And then I made my way somehow through the smoke into the light to our crews. There was a cameraman there whose head was bloody and he was trying to shoot and set up some of these shots there. The firefighters, the police, the crews, the people. People streamed toward me as I made my way to the Trade Center, sobbing and crying and trying to call home on dead cell phones, but they couldn't get through. There is so much fear out there even now because of gas main leaks. There was a point at which I watched firefighters run. Someone threw me forward. A paramedic truck let me jump inside and drove me halfway, and then a New York City bus driver opened his doors of an empty bus and drove me here to the broadcast center. To all of them, I mean, citizens of New York and have remained amazingly calm but deeply frightened.
CBS News correspondent Carol Marine, still covered with the smoke and pieces of the debris. Stick with us here, Carol. I want to repeat that New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani now says, and this is a direct quote, there have been a tremendous number of lives lost. Certainly no one at this early hour can know how many lives have been lost. But it's impossible to watch the pictures of both of the World Trade Centers collapsing. Keep in mind these buildings were 110 stories in height each, with 50,000 plus people generally working there.
We've been unable to do that. Also, for the first time in history, all the major exchanges on the planet are closed. They were looking at a delayed opening on the New York Stock Exchange. They've forgotten that altogether. They're not going to do that. Global trading has stopped essentially between the two continents of Europe and the United States. First time in history that has happened. So if you're trying to really deal a death blow to the United States financial community, as well as the quite literal death blow you've dealt with in the downtown parts of Manhattan today, this was the place to attack, and this was the place to do the devastation. That, of course, is Times Square we were looking at there, where also some brokerage houses are located. But I can't stress enough what this means on a symbolic level, just to be really just a few blocks away from the corner of Wall and Broad, of course, where trading it was to have commenced today. Of course, that's been called off entirely. No indications when it would ensue. I do want to also mention something else here. It's very curious, but it's a footnote that hasn't been reported. That is, the dollar was tumbling after these initial reports. It's very hard to trade the dollar right now because virtually no brokerage house is open. But it was tumbling, and that is interesting. And I suspect, and certainly I'm no analyst in this regard, but that it shows a lack of confidence in this last bastion of security, that is that the United States was deemed, and that it was hit and hit hard. And so the dollar has always benefited as this proverbial flight to quality, this flight to safety, that the United States was somehow different from the rest of the world because we had a stronger economy, we were in better shape, financially, even all our problems notwithstanding, we were a safer place to go. That's being seriously called into question. I don't think genuinely or legitimately so, but traders sell first and ask questions later. And prior to the markets, the major markets closing, the dollar was tumbling.
Neil, we don't want to cause any kind of panic situation here whatsoever, but as we all know, the economy was in a down mode. We were all hoping that there would be a turnaround soon enough. Now, the United States has come back in times of tragedies.
Absolutely.
And pulled together its resources, not only militarily, not only patriotically, but also financially. Is it likely that it may do so after this, or will this in fact mean a more severe downturn than we've seen so far?
Well, you're right, but keep in mind...
into a building because it was the one light I could see, and stayed there until a couple of police officers and a few of the people inside the building were able to get into a vehicle. We picked up a few injured people along the way and dropped them off at the hospital.
You did? What were their injuries?
Well, one policeman had a deep gash in his forehead. He was all right. He was clearly, a bit shocked, and the young lady had shrapnel in her arm. Don't know what it was, whether it was part of a building or glass from another building.
Was there a lot of peripheral damage to other buildings?
smaller kind of hit and miss attacks than we've seen over the last 7-8 years.
Well, you don't ordinarily expect terrorists to display this degree of expertise. I mean, flying an airplane is not all that easy. Kidnapping or hijacking an airplane, particularly with the safeguards we have at the airports right now, is not a trivial exercise. But unfortunately, the security you have at airports is not perfect, because nothing human beings do is perfect. Somebody thought very carefully and hard and long about this, and then they got some madmen to actually take control of the aircraft.
Tom, stay with me for a second. We a few moments ago told our viewers that United Airlines was concerned about another. United lost a flight near Pittsburgh earlier today, and officials said they were also concerned about United Flight 175.